let us discuss the purpose of life. This is the most important topic that we could ever discuss, that should put everything that we do into perspective. That requires many questions, and we would hope for rational answers. We don't know, that means we can be in the position of agnosticism, the general acceptance that we don't know, and the agnostic approach is that we cannot know. But I'm going to take the approach that we certainly can know. So how we can move from a general sense of agnosticism to a serious spiritual commitment. Obviously, from my appearance, I represent a spiritual tradition. So I'm going to be talking ultimately in spiritual terms, but I want to approach this in a rational manner, not a dogmatic manner. Agnosticism is based on the presumption that we can never really understand anything fully, and on a spiritual path requires spiritual commitment based on the assumption or understanding that beyond normal sphere of knowledge, that which is acquired through seeing, touching, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, through our senses, and digesting all this and making speculations upon this with our mind, there is a level of sublime consciousness that can be approached by a spiritual path. Now, when we say spiritual, a lot of people get turned off right away, or even more so by the word religious. Many people who consider themselves to be rational get turned off by this. But I want to approach this in a rational way, respecting the intelligence of people who are intelligent enough to make such inquiries into the purpose of life. Obviously, I'm not going to say, well, the purpose of life is to make lots of money. We wouldn't need a big discussion if that was the conclusion. There might be a big discussion how to make lots of money, but that the goal of life is to make lots of money, I'm not going to discuss. Although possibly in the modern age, people who are in the garb of spiritualists, they do teach such things, but such people are not real spiritualists at all. So we're going to discuss the purpose of life in a rational, intelligent way for people who are serious to understand this subject and who have higher aspirations than simply earning money, having a so-called good time, mindless living. So I'm going to discuss this in terms of the spiritual tradition, the Vaishnava tradition, to which I have been committed for the last 37 years. But I'm not going to do so in a dogmatic way or ask anyone to accept anything out of blind faith. We want to respect the intelligence of any person who is intelligent enough to make such inquiries. Of course, there are many intelligent people in the world who don't make such inquiries, who are using their intelligence for making more and more machines, technological objects, like the technology by which you're able to hear this amplified and to see this broadcast on the internet. So there are certainly many intelligent people in the world, but most people are simply using their intelligence without having considered the really most important question of, well, what is everything all about anyway? We live in an age in which people are rushing without thinking, where are we going? We're so busy making more things and earning more money or just trying to make ends meet, that why we're doing what we're doing we never stop to consider. It's a herd mentality, that because everyone else lives life in a certain way, we also do. But real intelligence means to sit quietly, consider, contemplate it, and consider where have we come from, where are we going to, what is everything all about anyway, rather than just living without any clearly defined purpose or program and just going on in the way that everyone does so without thinking. So we congratulate people who are interested in finding out or inquiring into the sublime purpose of life. I'm going to quote from Bhagavad Gita. Now you may think, well, that's dogmatic. But it's not, because you can judge for yourself that this is a statement which anyone can ascertain without it being a religious dogmatic statement. The statement is, Manushanang sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhiye. Out of thousands of persons, maybe only one person will be interested in spiritual perfection. So that's at the best of times, and what to speak of in our modern, highly materialistic age. Now, everyone has a purpose of life, whether they sit down and think about it or not, whether they define it in their mind. Everyone has some purpose of life. Most people don't think about it, but we are purpose-driven beings. Everything we do is for some purpose. In fact, every living being, not only human beings, we can say that every living being, everything they do at every moment is for the purpose of increasing their comforts, their pleasure, their happiness, and minimizing discomfort or anything that may cause them any pain. And that may be extended also, not simply for one's own immediate personal happiness, but one may act for the happiness of one's family members, one's friends, one's nation. But at every moment, we, even subliminally, we make decisions about what to do based on the principle of, will this be better for me and those I consider dear to me or not? And usually that, or at the lowest level of consciousness, that decision is made in terms of what pleasure I can get from my senses. So everyone is trying to get free from suffering and to be happy always. And what are the basic activities that people do for that? Eating, sleeping, copulating, and warding off all obstacles to their doing so. So, again quoting from Vedic literature, Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam cha samanya metat pashubhya naranam. Again, this is not a sectarian or dogmatic statement. It simply states that eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating these four activities both humans and animals do. And the rest of the statement is Dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesham dharmena hina pashubhya naranam. That dharma is the special prerogative of human life. Dharma is roughly translated as religion. So without dharma, which is not possible to conceive of in subhuman life, in animal life, a human is nothing more than an animal. It's simple arithmetic. A plus B equals C, C minus B equals A. Animal plus the animal propensities plus dharma makes a human being. So a human being without dharma is simply a two-legged animal. It may be a harsh judgment, but it's quite rational. So what is dharma? It's roughly translated as religion. It's one of those non-translatable terms. There are many such non-translatable terms from the Vedic Sanskrit language into English. It doesn't translate very easily because the spiritual conceptualization is actually far more developed and profound in the Sanskrit language. Dharma is sometimes translated as religion. It's sometimes understood to be a sense of order in the universe, or to be in harmony with that order. Certainly without it, one is no more than an animal. So dharma is a very big subject. It's religion in Vedic culture. Takes many different forms and is often misunderstood as being polytheistic or chaotic by persons who do not understand the subtleties of it. But the higher levels of dharma begin with atato brahma jignasa. Now one should inquire into Brahma. Brahma is another of those not very easily translatable terms. It means the ultimate spiritual essence. Now one should inquire into the ultimate spiritual essence. Now that one has human life, it's understood that we have come through many, many lives. Now that we have human life, we should inquire into the nature of ultimate reality. This is the quest for the sublime. That for persons who are actually contemplative, who are not satisfied with a life of simply working and making money and the trivialities of this world, the persons who may be interested to listen to a discourse such as this, such persons can intuitively perceive that there is more, or there should be more to life than simply getting born, living for some time, having some friends and enemies, having some pleasure and some distress in this world, and then dying. There must be more to it than all of this. That we are meant for divine existence. Now we're talking about intuition here, which may not be, you may say now we've gone beyond the rational, but even in what is considered rational science, any advances, what are considered advances in science, have not come simply from rational consideration of data, but have come from intuition, a sense that beyond what we presently know, there's another dimension of understanding. There was nothing in science as it was known at the time to suggest relativity theory, but Einstein intuitively he made that step. And so how does that come? By what we call scientific or rational progress comes by contemplation of what we already know. We're dissatisfied. We think it's not a complete enough understanding. And by deep contemplation, the answer may be revealed to such a person. Revelation. There's some revelation. So on the on the existential level, some intuition of the divine, that there is more to existence than simply eating, sleeping, working, resting, mating, fighting. There's more to life than this triviality. There's the divine dimension. So that there is a divine dimension is suggested by the long history of persons who have reported experiences on that platform. If we reject, there is nothing divine, there is simply, the body is chemicals and there's nothing more to it than this, then we reject the teachings and the realizations of all great spiritual teachers of the past, and we reject all emotions, all feelings, all desires, even the desire to understand the purpose of life. We reject this as simply being some chemical transformations within the brain. So, although we may not be able to prove the spiritual dimension according to material science, does not mean that it does not exist. In fact, the very nature of a spiritual dimension is, by very definition, not definable in material terms. If we say we can't understand spirit, we never measured a spirit, or we never saw, tasted, heard, smell, or touched spirit with our material senses, well, that's to be expected, because spirit, by its very definition, is non-material. So later, in another session, I'd like to present a rational approach to understanding the nature of spirit beyond the body, beyond simply the chemicals that make up matter. But as that is, will take some time, I'll leave that for another session. But anyway, we're going to take a step into the realm of the divine. Not now. We're not just entering dogma here. We're not asking people to give up their rationalism, but we're asking people to at least accept hypothetically that there is such. And if we don't accept that, then we remain always on the platform of an agnostic, which is nothing much more than a cultured animal, sophisticated animal. So for persons who think that's as far as we can go, well, that's as far as you can go. If you want to be totally rational and only accept that which we can directly perceive, then that's called solipsism, in which it's a philosophical understanding, or actually not very philosophical understanding, is that we only accept as being real that which I perceive. So I'm looking at someone else, but I don't know if you're really real. But then it might be that even what we perceive is not real. So we come to absurd positions in which if we want to accept only what we can perceive as being real, then we come to a position of absurdity which is totally unpragmatic. And in fact, even to think that, well, I can only accept as being real that which I can perceive, you have to think in terms of language, which you learn from someone else, and from others. So it's not a very tenable philosophical position. Anyway, let's go on. What is the purpose of life? That there is a purpose of life is suggested by the universe being so ordered that there are laws of nature that we can analyze the universe in scientific terms, suggests that it is that there is a purpose of life. There's no one makes an apparatus for no purpose. If you go to an inventor's convention and someone presents, here is a wonderful machine, you see, you just push a button and the flaps open, it makes a little noise and lights blink. You say, well, yeah, that's very good. What does it do? Well, it doesn't do anything, there's no particular purpose, but it's a machine. But what is the use of such an invention? Why should anyone expend their intelligence and their energy and their money into creating a complex apparatus that does nothing? It has no particular function. It may do something, but it has no particular function. So the fact that the universe is so superbly ordered and so finely ordered that we as humans consider ourselves advanced to the degree that we can have some insights into the order of the universe, but however much we research it in various fields, we find that there's always much more to learn. So such a vast apparatus has no purpose. Doesn't seem to make sense, does it? And the very fact that we are purpose-driven beings also suggests that there's purpose. Just like if you're thirsty, it suggests that, well, you have a need to drink something. So if we have this impelling motive that to find out the purpose of life, or that even if our purpose of life is just to make money, that we are purpose-driven beings suggests that there is purpose. There's an anecdote told about Isaac Newton. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it many times. But whether it's true or not, this anecdote serves a purpose. That Isaac Newton, being a theist, also had an agnostic friend. So once the agnostic friend of Isaac Newton visited Sir Isaac's home and saw therein an apparatus of a moving model of the universe as it was understood at that time. So turn the handle and all the planets started to move, and the friend was very impressed. That was cutting edge stuff at the time. Well, that was ahead of the times at the time. So then the friend asked Sir Isaac that, wow, this is remarkable. Did you make this or someone else made it? Who made it? And Sir I said, well, no one made it. It's just happens to be there. And his friend said, come on, what are you talking about? Who made it? He said, no, I made it. Just happens to be there. I just came into my lab one day and just happens to be there. Well, someone must have put it there. Someone must have made it. Sir Isaac said, yeah, well, surely someone must have made it, but this is only a very crude model of the universe, and you don't accept that the real universe has a maker. So in this way he exposed, Sir Isaac exposed the agnostic as his theory of that there is no, that we cannot know if there is any maker or controller of the universe. He exposed the theory. Now, here, my dear friends, is a cheap Casio watch with only half a strap, because I find it convenient to put it like that and I can see it. Whereas if the whole strap's there, it doesn't sit nicely like that. So it's a purpose or modified design. See, I took one half the strap off. Okay, this is a Casio watch. Now, it's quite complex, somewhat complex. I wouldn't know how to make one. It's not nearly as complex as the universe. But if I was to propound that it came into being out of nothing, or that just there was a big storm, there's a big storm, Isaac going on at the time, and there were some bits and pieces of plastic lying in the yard and some bits and pieces of iron filings, and when the storm was over, here we go. Casio watch with only half a strap. Just like that. Exactly to the point. Just exactly according to my need. Well, if I claimed that, probably the Casio company would sue me. But it's an absurd claim that this little watch can come into being without a lot of effort. Now, if we think what effort goes into making this, and someone had to design it, and then even the quality of steel and plastic, different kinds of plastic. There's one kind of plastic on the face, another kind of plastic on the strap. So all the different components required a lot of research, and then the exact design, and then extracting the iron ore, discovering where it is, extracting it, making such a watch, marketing it, fixing a price so that it will sell well, but the company makes enough profit, and all this. So much intelligence goes into something which is, we just take it as an everyday artifact. Just, we don't think twice about it. It's some little watch, and okay, what's the time? Time to finish this lecture. So, if we say that, or if we can understand that even this little watch, which is quite complex to the layman, cannot come into being simply by chance. It requires much intelligence and much effort to do so. Then how can we accept that the universe comes into being by chance? It's not a very good hypothesis. A much better hypothesis is that it is purpose built by a designer. So that's a very common argument for the existence of the purposeful being who makes the universe. And I'll speak more about this later.